That whole run I had that year in the NCAA was unbelievable. Everything went right for me. Every shot, every pass, every dribble. So I was in a zone. I had to make some big plays, and I came through for my team. Going into the Elite Eight to the Final Four, just the whole run, I just felt so comfortable out there.
Then you are in Australia right now.
You're talking NBA basketball. You're talking great teams. You're talking great individual players.
Takes it off, and there's number 23, and of course Johnny goes nuts.
We're all getting goosebumps thinking about it now.
I just tried to go out there and play my game.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Adam. I don't like anybody. I'm not a people person.
Strand, you make the pass, yes. Christian, can you catch the ball? Yes.
All the stars were aligned and all the muscles fired at the right time, and I was able to get off the ground and throw one down.
I was saving that as a surprise for you.
And now, introducing your host for In All Airness, Adam Ryan.
Welcome to episode 31. Thanks for joining me. My website, inallairness.com. Just add a / and the episode number to view show notes. On this episode, I'm thrilled to be joined by high school prodigy, NCAA legend, and NBA All-Star Kenny Anderson. We talk about his childhood playing basketball and how he handled the intense media spotlight in high school and college. He chats about his key role with Team USA between his freshman and sophomore seasons at Georgia Tech. We delve into his NBA career, including the 1991 draft, which was held in his native New York. Kenny also talks about European legend and former teammate Drazen Petrovic. We discuss his battles against Michael Jordan, and stay tuned too as Kenny provides the answer to a fan-submitted question. In 2014, Kenny is releasing a book. We chat about that too. A special mention to my friend and former guest on this podcast, Talani Goodson. He was instrumental in helping me connect with Kenny. Sincere thanks to you, Talani. Towards the end of the episode, I also have some great listener feedback to share. Now, onto the show. My guest today is New York City royalty. He's a high school legend, starred for 2 seasons in college, was second overall pick in the 1991 NBA draft, and enjoyed a 14-year NBA career, complete with All-Star honours in 1994. He has an autobiography due for release in 2014. Kenny Anderson, thanks for joining me.
Oh, it's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure. How you doing?
I'm going well, thank you. I'm really excited to chat with you today. Now, you're universally recognised as a playground legend in Queens. Do you recall at what age you first started playing basketball, and what on-court memories do you have from those days, Kenny?
Well, my sister babysitted me a lot. She watched me. So she started taking me to the park when I was 6 years old. And I just fell in love with the basketball. I always used to cry when they took the basketball away from me, and she would go and get it from them. And I'd just throw the ball up at the hoop. So about 6 years old, I started just throwing the ball at the basket and always dribbling the ball. And, from there, I just got, better and better with time. So I really started playing organized basketball, CYO, which is the Catholic Youth Organization. I started playing like 8 years old. I started playing, organized basketball.
Okay, sure. So nice and young. Now, you attended Archbishop Molloy High School and you were named All-City 4 straight years, which is just phenomenal in itself. How were those seasons when you were under such an intense media spotlight already in just your high school years?
Yeah, it was great. I got a lot of attention. I think it was well-deserved, but I also had a good supporting cast. My high school coach, Jack Curran, who really controlled the media. He let me do certain media like papers and interviews and things of that nature. He just knew, what was best for me at the time. So it was great. They came up to Archbishop Molloy School. I think NBC, the great Al McGuire, did a great piece on me. Came and visited me at Molloy, and numerous newspapers and television shows that I did when I was 15 years old. So, I've always had a knack, for the media.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you did mention Jack Curran. Earlier this year, he sadly passed away. How big of an impact did he have on your life, Kenny?
Oh, it was huge. Jack Curran had a big influence on my life. Like I said, I was the only freshman And I went to the school, played varsity for 4 years straight. I was all-city 4 years in a row at Malloy. But at an early age, he taught me how to lead a team. And it was just a great situation to be in. Not only Jack Curran, at Malloy, but my teachers and the school environment, everything was great for me. It was a really great high school for me, as far as education-wise also.
Yeah, definitely was. You feature on the excellent TV series Courtside Jones, which is created by a good friend of yours, Talani Goodson, who's also been a guest on my podcast back on episode 21. He's a great guy. Now, you spoke about Vincent and Kenny Smith on that interview. Kenny Smith graduated from Archbishop Malloy in 1983, and then he went on to star at UNC and won back-to-back championships with Houston in 1994 and 95. For those who are yet to see that interview, Kenny, can you just talk a little bit about the impact that the Smiths had on you as well when you were growing up?
Well, Vincent Smith is the older brother. He's my mentor. He taught me, my work ethic along with Jack Curran as far as with the basketball. Also, he always put it in my head that not only basketball, but I got to go to school and get good grades. And the whole Smith family, that was my second family. I lived about 5-10 minutes from them in another building, and I would just always go up there to eat and just talk. So Kenny Smith is probably the one who I looked up to in high school. He's the only basketball player that I really, cared about, because I could touch him. So I always wanted to do what he was doing and then do it better. He had about 200 trophies in his house, and I used to go up there and see him. And I was like, man, I want to win those trophies. I want to do the same thing as he's doing. And Vincent Smith said, hey, you just got to put the work in. And, that was it.
Excellent. How was that being on the show and also working alongside your friend Talani?
Yeah, it was great. They do a great Courtside Jones was just awesome, went back to my old neighborhood and just gave it to everybody that, just gave it up as far as, what were my experiences like living in Lefrak City. So it was exciting going back to my neighborhood and expressing myself and how much my neighborhood meant to me. Because, a lot of those people in the neighborhood, looked out for me, kept me out of trouble and helped me when I needed help, or to give me something to eat and showed me the right way. They was older than me, and some of the older guys in the neighborhood kind of raised me, in that environment.
Good to hear. Now, most listeners would know that you were a 2-year star at Georgia Tech, playing for the Yellow Jackets, but not as many may realise that you were also considering other colleges like North Carolina, Duke and Syracuse. So it was actually possible at one stage that you could have been playing in college alongside Derek Coleman, who in a few years down the track would actually be your future NBA teammate.
Yeah, I was close to go to Syracuse, but my mother wanted me to go to Georgia Tech. Syracuse was like my second choice.
Mm-hmm.
But I picked the right school for me, Georgia Tech. They gave me all the freedom in the world. It was kind of like I was playing back in high school. I didn't have to make no adjustments in my game when I chose to go to Georgia Tech. Coach just asked me to go to class and do everything the right way, and then the ball is mine. So he lived up to that. He didn't lie, So, and then my mother, said if I go away, she would want me to be with Bobby Crimmins. But he's a New Yorker. He comes from the Bronx, New York, so she was really comfortable with him.
Great. In that first season at Georgia Tech, you went 28-7, and you made it all the way to the Final Four in 1990, losing out to the eventual NCAA champs, the UNLV Runnin' Rebels, who were led by Larry Johnson. Before we actually get to that, though, in the Southeast Regional Final against the Michigan State Spartans, it was a classic game. It had an amazing finish to the end of regulation. Can you just talk a little bit about your part in that game and the incredible off-balance jump shot you hit to force overtime?
Yeah, that whole region, Southeast region, that whole run I had that year in the NCAA was, unbelievable. Everything went right for me. Mm-hmm. Every shot, every pass, every dribble. So I was in a zone that whole week against Michigan State. Came down to the wire. I had to make some big plays, and I came through for my team. Against Minnesota, going into the Elite Eight to the Final Four, I had a big game. Just the whole run, the 4 or 5 games that I had to play, I just felt so comfortable out there. I have to give a lot of credit to Dennis Scott, Brian Oliver, those 2 guys, just my whole team. As a freshman, they had so much confidence in me, that I would, bring it home for us. And just the way they accepted me as a freshman, and I was getting a lot of attention. Everybody was, sold on winning. That was the number one purpose.
Definitely. And I'm glad you mentioned those 2 guys, because in 1990, your Yellow Jackets became just the 4th team in NCAA history to have 3 players who averaged more than 20 points a game. So there was 3D, Dennis Scott, Brian Oliver, and yourself. And you also had a classic collective nickname of Lethal Weapon 3.
It was a fun time. You had myself, who was the point guard. I kind of set the table for Brian, who was a great rebounding guard, big guard. He slashed it, finished at the basket extremely well. Then we had the versatile Dennis Scott, who was like 6'8". He could post you up, but he was deadly from the outside. Extremely great shooter. Then we just had about 6, 7 players. Coach didn't play a full roster. We had Malcolm Mackey, who was like a 6'11". He was a freshman along with me. He had a great first year also. Johnny McNeil, a transfer, out of a junior college in North Carolina. Carl Brown, who was our defensive specialist. He was from London, was a former soccer player. We just had a close-knit team, and we won and executed down the stretch very well. And everybody had each other's back. And those guys, I will never, forget that team and those guys. They really welcomed me with open arms, and we just had a great year, and I had a great time with them.
Yeah, it sounds like a great mix of players for sure. Now, in that 1990 Final Four against UNLV, they beat you 90-81. It was a close game, and then they went on to thump Duke by about 30 points in the title game. So how enormous a challenge was it for you to get yourselves up and ready to try and play the running Rebels?
Well, we thought we could beat them, and we wanted to upset the world. It was a favorite. But we had a run. We had a great run. I got in foul trouble, and that's what did it. Coach, and we always talk about it. He took me out. I had 3 fouls, and they made their run. Once they made their run, he put me back in. We could never recover. But they had a great team with Larry Johnson, Stacey Osmond, Greg Anthony. Those are the 3 pros they had on that team. So, we knew we had our hands full, but we was ready to play.
Yeah, that was certainly a stacked team, that's for sure. Now, prior to your sophomore season, you were a key member of Team USA's Goodwill Games and also the FIBA World Championship teams. Both were led by Duke's coach, Mike Krzyzewski. I'd just like to talk about those 2 for a moment, if you don't mind. The Goodwill Games were hosted in Seattle in July of 1990, and you helped lead Team USA to the gold medal game against Yugoslavia, and they had a young Tony Kukoc and also Dino Raja. Your team was stacked with some great players as well, including Billy Owens, Alonzo Mourning, Christian Leitner, Bobby Hurley, and one of my good friends, Todd, arguably his favourite player, Clarence Weatherspoon, was also on that team as well. So do you mind just talking a little bit about your memories of the Goodwill Games in Seattle and just sort of what you do remember most about that time?
Well, I remember, playing for Coach K, the Goodwill team. It was a very great experience playing against other countries. We lost to Dragan Petrovic and Tony Kukoc and Divac. They were stacked. We were college kids, so this was a little naive, and I think we took them for granted. Being that we was from United States, that was the first time I ever got a chance to see some great European players. The way they played together, the way they played the game, very smart. Their basketball IQ was very high. Yeah, Tony Kukoc was like 6'8", could handle the ball left-handed. He was a great passer, shoot. So they just were stacked over there. They had a nice team, but like I said, I still believe we just took them for granted. We're like, no, we America. We just had to put our uniform on, and they was gonna bow down. Like these guys was ready to play us. They wanted to really beat us, and they did. They came out and performed well.
Yep. And a few weeks later, after those Goodwill Games in August of 1990, you played in the FIBA World Championships and you were a major part in Team USA winning the bronze medal. In that bronze medal game against Puerto Rico, your team was down by 8 points with about 90 seconds to go, and then you stepped it up big time and forced overtime with a couple of clutch free throws with next to no time left on the clock. So do you remember that game?
Yeah, I remember it when you talk about it just now, and it was one of those games. I was in the zone, man, and everything I put up went in. I made the right decisions, on the break or in the offense. When I needed to pass, I passed. When I needed to, shoot the jumper, I shot the jumper. When I, was on the foul, I made my free throws. I was very focused because I didn't want to lose, and not get any medal. So I knew we had to really come out there and compete. And Puerto Rico, was coming after us. They played a very good game.
And you also scored 34 points in that game as well. So phenomenal effort as far as your scoring output too.
Yeah, that was a record, a FIBA record for a while. I think Carmelo Anthony just beat it with the FIBA rules with the Olympics.
Okay.
He had 37 like a year ago. They put it up there on ESPN. And I was like, wow, because, when they select those great teams now, all the pro teams and stuff like that, it is very difficult to score 30 points when you're playing with a group of great players. You know what I mean? Because everybody's chipping in. But it was an exciting time for me. I really played well over there.
Yeah, definitely did. The then Yugoslavian team that you mentioned, it was led by future NBA stars like Vlade Divac, Tony Kukoc, and also your future teammate Drazen Petrovic, as you mentioned. They won the gold, and the former Soviet Union won silver. So USA, you collected bronze. Your USA team also played against my home country, Australia, in an earlier round, and you beat Australia by 1 point. It was 79-78, I've since found out when I was researching for our chat today. Do you have any memories at all from playing against the Australian team and some of our great players like Andrew Gaze, Luke Longley, and Mark Bradkey?
Yeah, I remember those. Guys. Some of the guys came over. Had Luke Longley had a great pro career with the Bulls. I think he won some championships. Andrew Graves, I watched him a lot. I was from the metropolitan area. I was from New York, and I seen, he went to Seton Hall.
Yep.
For college, and they got them guys was, they could shoot. They would shoot. They were very good shooters. Like I said, mostly the Europeans and over in Australia. Most of those guys have got very good basketball IQs. They just, they know how to play the game the right way, to shoot, to pass, dribble, they can cut. It was a pleasure playing against those type of teams.
That's excellent to hear. I like to hear those sort of memories. Now, back to your college career. So this all happened in between your first and second seasons at Georgia Tech. So back to your second year with Georgia Tech. In December of 1990, I have since found out that you scored a career-high 50 points against Loyola Marymount in a game at the Omni in Atlanta. Do you mind just talking a bit about that? Because I've seen some YouTube highlights and you were just unconscious from the field and doing all kinds of crazy plays. How was that game?
I think that weekend was crazy for me, meaning, I could do no wrong. I had 50. The night before, I had 41 on Georgia, I believe, because we played Georgia University the night before, and then we played LMU, and I had 50. So in 2 days, I had 91 points, and I just was unconscious. Against LMU, I was just shooting it through. I think I made 7 threes. I just couldn't miss, man. It was one of those days that the basket looked like an ocean. You know what I mean? I was just in the zone. And my teammates that year, my sophomore year, my game changed because I had to be more of a scorer because I lost Dennis Scott and Brian Oliver. I wasn't. I like to play. I like to have that balanced attack where I can be a point guard and score. When I have to, but my sophomore year, I had to score more. So, I had to change my game, which wasn't bad, but just had to do too much.
You certainly did up your scoring average. I think you're up to about 26 or 27 points a game, so you did step it up for sure. Now, before we do talk NBA, Kenny, I'd have to ask you about that incredible move that you put on Bobby Hurley in a Georgia Tech versus Duke game. I'm pretty sure you'd remember the one I'm talking about. You went behind the back, between the legs, behind the back again, and then put up a floater in the lane. And at the time, Dick Vitale, who was commentating, he almost had to have an ambulance on standby because of the move. Yeah, what do you think about that move in particular?
It's all instinct, man. I just was in the zone. I was having a big game that night, and, Bobby Hurley, he played for St. Anthony's High School in Jersey City. We was just he's so competitive. But he brought the best out of me, every time we competed against each other. And like I said, it's just all instinct, but I did play against some great point guards in the ACC, it was that year. It was myself, Bob Hurley, Chris Corciani from NC State, John Crotty from Virginia. It was a loaded group, so you had to be ready. You had to come out and compete. So that move, I was just, the nation was watching, everybody was watching, and I just wanted to come out and have a good game.
Well, the reaction from the crowd was amazing. Dick Vitale was beside himself, and the players on the bench who are watching your move as well, you can see them in the background just going berserk as well. So it was a fantastic moment that encapsulates the impact that you had on the college game as well. Now, as a sophomore, you led Georgia Tech in scoring, assists, and steals, and also you were named an All-American first team. Now, I've read that your preference was to play another season at Georgia Tech, but possibly because of the 1992 draft, which would have been top-heavy with bigs like Shaq, Alonzo Mourning, and Christian Laettner, and also the fact that you wanted to maybe help your family out financially, you decided to go in the 91 draft. Is that fairly accurate?
Yeah, that's true. I was just having too much fun at school, and you feel what you don't know on the other side. So I just really wasn't ready to leave college, but I went for different reasons to take care of my mother as far as financially, and to go high in the draft. My coach did his research. I couldn't go no lower than 3. I was on 1, 2, or 3. Mm-hmm. So I decided to just come out of school and just go for it.
Yep. Now, in that 1991 draft, you were selected at pick number 2 by the New Jersey Nets. Larry Johnson of the Runnin' Rebels went number 1. And you left college with averages of 23 points a game, 7 assists, and 5.6 boards, so just tremendous numbers. Do you mind just talking a little bit about the draft itself? It was held in New York, and your feelings when your name was called out with the second pick in the draft?
Well, it was awesome. It was my hometown. So all my friends and family was there to watch me. It just was a great feeling to know that your dream has came true. You made it, and you accomplished so much in high school, and I accomplished so much in high school and college, and now I went to the pinnacle playing in the NBA, but not only playing, but being the number 2 draft choice. No one can ever take that away from me. It's difficult to become a number 2 pick. You have to have a lot of recognition, and also you have to be one of the top players. So this was a great feeling.
Yeah, excellent. In your first NBA season, Bill Fitch was your head coach. I've read that he was far from impressed with the Nets' ownership at the time, and your team went 40-42, and you lost to the Cleveland Cavs in round 1 of the 1992 playoffs. What are your thoughts about your rookie season, Kenny, and the amount of playing time you had, and just in general, what did you think about that?
Might have been a blessing in disguise for me. I didn't play right away. Thought I should have been playing, being a number 2 pick. But then you see the business side of things. I think Bill Fitch wanted to draft Billy Owen, the general manager and the owners. My general manager, Willis Reed, and the owners wanted to draft me. Mm-hmm. So, I wind up in the middle of some type of a lot of politics, with the head coach and the general manager. And, I just waited my term. I know they invested 5 years, on me. I just knew when they gave me the ball, gave me my minutes, that I had to be ready. So I got the chance to be a student, watch what went on every night on the court, and when my number was called the following year, I was ready.
That's very true. And speaking of that following year, Chuck Daly became the head coach of the Nets at the start of your second NBA season. Can you just talk about the impact that the late, great Chuck Daly had on the 2 seasons that he was there in New Jersey? And plus, how did your game develop under his tutelage?
Well, Coach Daly was he's a player's coach. I know you hear that term a lot, but he really was. He had guided Detroit Pistons to 2 championships under Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars. So he knew how to really handle, the guards and the backcourt. And we had a great team core. We had a core of great players, myself, Derek Coleman, and Drazen Petrovic. So Coach just gave me the ball. He told me, hey, this is your team. You got to lead by example. Come to work hard, and your time is now. You didn't play last year. People, want to see what you can do. X amount of money in you, and you gotta come through. You gotta come through for the organization, and that was it. He was straightforward and a really class type of coach. He didn't BS you. There's no BSing with Chuck Daly. If he liked you, he liked you. If he didn't, he didn't. But he just gave me a lot of confidence, and when a coach gives you confidence and he trusts you, that makes you want to play harder for that coach, and that's what I did.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure. Now, we'll get to your 1994 season in a moment, but your first 2 seasons in the NBA were Drazen Petrovic's only 2 full seasons with the Nets. You played against Drazen, as we said, back in 1990. What was he like as a teammate, and if you don't mind, how did his death affect you personally?
Well, first of all, he's probably the best player to come over from Europe and really display great play in the NBA. I think he left us too early, but he was a quiet teammate. He led by example, and he worked extremely hard in practice. And in the games, he wanted to win, and he wanted to prove, I think, to himself and to his country members and everybody over in Croatia that, I belong. I belong in the NBA. And he was doing it. He was doing a great job, and too sad we lost him too early. I tend to wonder, without him, his death, and Derek Coleman staying with the Nets, and I'm staying with the Nets, how far we could have, took this organization. You never know.
Do you have any regrets about your time in New Jersey? Arguably, the Nets should have perhaps gone deeper into the playoffs, or at least that's what the widely regarded opinion may have been. What do you think about that?
It was a blessing, man. I played 5 years in New Jersey, 4.5, 5 years, and that's where it all started for me. In 1994, I was an all-star. I started, on the all-star team from the Eastern Conference, and I don't look back, man. Can't regret it. Just move forward, and it was a blessing playing with Drazen Petrovic, Derek Coleman, Benoit Benjamin, and Stan Bowie, even Mookie Blaylock my first year when he was playing, being a point guard. So the whole, I was a blessing to get drafted, to New Jersey. Didn't have to leave. Wasn't far from my family and friends. I grew up in New York, about 45-minute drive back to my old stomping grounds, Left City, Queens. So it just was a blessing, man. I thank God.
Excellent. Now let's talk about that 1994 season for a moment. You played all 82 regular season games, and you averaged just under 19 points a game, along with almost 4 rebounds and 2 steals per contest. You were selected, as you said, to start in the Eastern Conference All-Star team alongside your then teammate Derek Coleman, and also your former teammate Mookie Blaylock was actually on that squad as well. How was the actual All-Star experience, Kenny?
Well, it was great, to be with your peers, especially the best players, for that half a year. You know what I mean? So it was a blur, though. You just go out there and you play, and you just try to have as much as fun as possible. So just getting there meant a lot. So, it was just, a great experience.
Good to hear. Now, also, in your time in New Jersey, obviously you had your cross-city rivals, the New York Knicks. Now, I know that you probably tried to get yourself up for every game that you played, but can you just talk for a moment about the rivalry against New York and what that meant to you at the time and what you can recall about those days too?
For me, being that I'm from New York, we wanted to play well. I wanted to play well against any team I was playing against.
Mm-hmm.
But playing against my home team, it was special. Playing in the Garden, usually those games are sold out because you got, Jersey and New York so close by each other playing. So, it was almost like another game. But just, I wanted to have my bragging rights because I'm from New York. I wanted to do well and beat them,
Yeah, I can understand that for sure. Do you have a favourite arena that you played in over the course of your long career?
Favorite arena? I used to like playing in the Garden because of New York, because where I'm from. I used to like playing in the Forum in L.A., where the Lakers used to play at. And then Philly, I used to love playing in the Spectrum. The Spectrum in Philly where the Sixers play at. Boston, you see all the banners hanging down. Old Boston Garden, I got the chance to play there. So it was awesome.
Yeah, you played in some great arenas for sure. And we'll get to your 5 seasons that you spent with the Celtics as well a bit later on. In January of 1996, the Nets traded you to the Charlotte Hornets, and this was the same season that the Bulls went 72-10. Now, one of those 10 losses was to your Charlotte Hornets, and in a classic game in April of 1996, you led the Hornets with 20 points and defeated the Bulls, who were 66-8 heading into the game. In the final few seconds, the Bulls had about 4 chances to win the game, but you guys held on to win by 1 point. First of all, do you remember the game I'm talking about, and what was it like playing against that juggernaut team of Chicago?
Yeah, it was great. I love playing against the Bulls with Michael Jordan, Pippen, and the best. You always knew you were going to have a sellout crowd, and you really wanted to be ready and play and be on top of your game. But the night before, we played them a back-to-back game. So the night before they played in Charlotte, they played us at home and they blew us out. So then we had to get on the plane and go play them in Chicago. So everybody was kind of pissed off and embarrassed the way we played at home. So we went out there and competed our butts off at home, for them against the Bulls. And, I had a big game. I think I hit the biggest one of the winning shot from what it was a 3-pointer. Then they came down and we stopped them. They had a few chances, like you said, to win it, but we had stopped them and we pulled the win off. But it basically, it was because they blew us out the night before in Charlotte. And then we had to go out there and play. So we was eager. We wanted to, we knew we didn't come to play the night before. So we wanted to come in there and have a better outing when we did that.
And it sounds like, your pride was definitely on the line and you came through with the goods for sure. I think in that game you talked about at Charlotte, the Bulls got out to a massive lead. I think it was maybe 20-0 to start the game or something like that. So definitely you had plenty to prove when you went back to Chicago to take them on.
Yeah, definitely. That, you're playing against the best. You're a competitor. You're an NBA player. You're going to have nights where things don't go right for you. You don't make no shots. You're not defending correctly. Guys are not on the same page. Usually the next game, if you have a game like that, poor game, you're going to come, with vengeance, and that's what we did. We was ready to play.
Yep, for sure. Now, where possible, I do like to ask guests on the show about their experiences playing with or against Michael Jordan. Obviously, MJ was retired in 1994, so you weren't all-star teammates. Did you ever team up with Jordan in any sort of off-season or pick-up games, or were you always opponents?
No, I was always opponents. I never played with no off-season celebrity games and things like that. I never played with him. But it was just an honor to be on the court with him, so... he's a great player. He did a lot, so much for the league. He was just a great athlete, and he's the best. You just knew when you played the Bulls that you had to control him. If not, you was gonna lose. So. Like I said, it was an honor to be on the court with him.
Yeah, excellent. Between the 1997 and 2005 seasons, you played for the Trailblazers. You spent 5 seasons with the Celtics, which I'll get to in a moment. You were with the Supersonics, the relocated New Orleans Hornets, and the Pacers, Hawks, and Clippers to finish off the career. But your 5 seasons in Boston, obviously, I guess, for the ownership of NBA teams, basketball is pretty much a business, so you sort of go from team to team at times. But can you talk about those years and playing for the various teams? How did you adjust moving from those different franchises?
Well, like you said, in Boston, I stayed, in Boston, you have to adjust. I'm a pro, I was a veteran, so, what I had to do, to, be on the court and to win, to help my team. That's what I did. I was able to adjust. That was the big thing. But, Boston, it's a story, history, franchise, and I love playing in Boston. All the years I played there, I did pretty well numbers-wise, but my first 2 years there was not good as far as winning. We didn't win a lot of games. But then we went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and we lost to New Jersey, and they went on and got swept by the Lakers in the championship in the finals. So it was a great run in Boston. I played under Rick Pitino, who I have utmost respect for.
Mm-hmm.
He was a great coach, and Jim O'Brien. So it was awesome. I didn't, 5 years, I didn't play with 2 coaches. So it wasn't like it was a bunch of coaches in and out, when I was there. So, it was good. It was fine.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that Eastern Conference Final Series because, in 2002, you were part of that historic Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Your Celtics were down by 20 points at the half, and then you outscored Jason Kidd's New Jersey Nets team 41 to 16 in that fourth quarter to win the game.
Going into the fourth quarter, we were down 20, and we rallied back and won the game by 2 or 4 points. But it was a great game. Ain't really much you could say about that one is that we kept our heads in it. We could have easily bailed out and said, hey, let's get the next one. But we kept playing. We wanted the game to be respectful. But then all of a sudden we got back in the game, we got closer, and then I think they got a little tight, and we just started playing extremely well.
That was one of the great playoff games of the last 20 years for sure. Now, is it possible to select the best game you actually played in over the course of your career, or is that just too difficult given how long you played for?
Yeah, I just don't look at it like that. I had some great games. I had some great shots that might not have been buzzer beaters, but shots that changed the outcome of a game where we won. Things like that, great plays that led us to, us winning the game. So it's a bunch, you play a lot of games a year in the NBA. It's hard to remember all of them. But, like I said, it was a great run, 14 years. And I was blessed, to play in the league that long.
Yeah, I can remember one of the buzzer beater that you hit. You were with the Trailblazers at the time, and you were up against Minnesota Timberwolves, and you hit a sort of falling fadeaway at the buzzer over like Tom Gugliotta and Hollywood Robinson, I think it might have been, and that was a crazy win at the buzzer. I'm sure you remember that move.
No, I don't remember that one. You just brought that up. I don't remember that one, but hey, like I said, it's a lot of games, and you just move on to the next one. You try to win a game and entertain the fans because certain teams you're just going to get to see them. They're only going to see you once a year. So you want to come and give them a good showing and entertain and at the same time win the game. So, I don't remember a lot of them.
Well, in the show notes to this chat, I'll try and include as many links as I can to some of these moments we've talked about. I know for sure that one's online somewhere on YouTube. I saw it before we chatted today, so I'll try and find that so people can check it out because it was a great buzzer beater that you hit. Now, you kindly agreed to answer the best fan-submitted question for our chat today. I've had a look over the Facebook and Twitter comments, and the one I'd like to ask you is from a guy called Danny Robson. What he's asked is, recent Hall of Famer Gary Payton said that John Stockton was the toughest opponent that he ever faced. Now, because GP and yourself are both players from that same era, who did you find the hardest to play against?
Allen Iverson really gave problems, but because he was a scorer point. He didn't really get his teams, get his players involved, so he put a lot of pressure on you offensively every play down. You just had to. You knew he was going to shoot the ball a lot, and you knew he was coming. believe it or not, I don't know if people think, but he was in great shape. He just played nonstop, running up and down the court. And, he just put a lot of offensive pressure on you. So you just, you knew you had to run all over the court to contest a lot of his shots. You wanted him to be a volume shooter. You wanted him to shoot a lot of bad shots to get 30 or 30 to 40 points. That's what I tried to do with him, to harass him, try to get him out of his comfort zone, but also shoot a lot of shots to get his point. If he was on a page where he was making everything and he's not shooting a lot of shots, then you got problems.
Yeah, I suppose you want to try and minimise his cuts to the basket and trying to get through defence and all that sort of stuff, so I can see how that would be the way to go.
Yes.
Now, in 2006, you headed to play overseas in Lithuania. Do you mind just talking a little bit about that opportunity, Kenny?
Yeah, it was a great opportunity for me. Sabonis, who I played with Portland, he was the general manager, president of the team over in Lithuania. And my mother passed away in 2005. So it kind of came the right time. I got out of the country. I still was playing the game there, somewhat I loved. So, it was awesome. The people over there took care of me, and it was just a nice thing to do, to clear my head a little bit. It was awesome. It was a good experience.
Oh, that's good. So it sounds like it was a good bookend to your actual playing career. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, because that's when I ended it. I lost the passion to play 205, to play in the NBA. I just didn't really want to do it no more, period. When I came back from Lithuania, my mother had passed, so I was really happy that she saw all of my NBA career. So it was time to do something else.
Yeah, I'm sure that meant a lot to you for sure. Since retiring, Kenny, you've coached some basketball. You've also were inducted into the New York City Basketball Hall of Fame in 2008 alongside Sam Perkins and Rod Strickland. You completed your degree in 2010, and you've also been hard at work on a forthcoming book which is titled Instructions Not Included, if I am correct. Do you mind just talking about some of those great achievements, Kenny, and also what can we look forward to reading about in your book?
Well, the New York City Hall of Fame is so huge for me because that's where it all started.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a blessing to get, inducted into that Hall of Fame. It's something I would always remember, and it was a pleasure going in with Sam Perkins and Rod Strickland, former New Yorkers. It was just a great feeling that night. And then I graduated. I went back to school after 20 years, 2010, and got my bachelor's degree in organizational leadership from my school down here in Florida where I live at, St. Thomas University. So, that was a great accomplishment because it's probably the hardest thing I had to do in my life is to do that. But I was able to do it. I wish my mother was there to see me, but she had passed away. So, and I told her I was going back to school one day to get my degree. So it was a pleasure, man. It was incredible, to go back. And, I answered some of your questions, the question tonight, the interview, but my book, Instructions Not Included, I'll go into details about a lot of these things, a lot of my life, of what I've been through, what I'm going through, and it's a manuscript of my life. It's going to be great. It's going to be interesting and deep, about, being a number one recruit out of high school, all 4 years in high school, then going to Georgia Tech, and playing in the NBA for 14 years, discussing some of the coaches and some of the organizations, how I really feel about them. So y'all are going to get the full, 411 on, my life, and it was a great one.
Definitely has been so far. And yeah, it's going to be a really interesting book. I'm really looking forward to reading that when it does come out. I think you're planning to release it sometime around March Madness of 2014. Is that still the plan?
Yes, that's the plan. Because it's a manuscript about my life, and I want some of these young guys that's maybe they're prodigy, maybe they're, on their way to be successful in college or pros, just to read it and get the message across to them, about how they should, lead their lives as far as, as far as if you're going to school academically or just life lessons of the NBA, college, and the whole works. I think I have a lot of knowledge to give off to some of these young men, and I can help them, along the way.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic, and I'm sure it's going to be jam-packed with heaps of great information and stories about your career. Now, you've been really generous with your time today, Kenny. I can't thank you enough. Thanks again for chatting with me. What's the best way for listeners of the show to keep in touch with you?
Well, you can always keep in touch on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter, which is CHIBBS_1, and then we'll go from there, But Twitter, you can follow me there. So I'll give off a lot of information and things that I'm doing.
Yeah, sounds great. And I've also been following you in recent months where you've been using the hashtag instructions not included. So you've been dropping some information about what's going to be coming up in your book as well, which has been some great stuff to read as well. Thanks again, Kenny, for chatting to me today, and I wish you all the best in the future and good luck with the book, and I hope we get to chat again soon at some stage.
Oh, it was great, man. Thank you.
Thanks again, Kenny. It was great to chat with you. I encourage you to interact with the show. Suggest topics for future episodes or guests you'd like to hear conversations with. I welcome voicemail comments or questions on my website or Facebook page. I want to personally thank Kobe Sabrino, I hope I've pronounced that right, Kobe, and Zeke_11 for their wonderful iTunes reviews, recently added to the UK and Australian stores, respectively. Worldwide, the show currently has 20 5-star ratings, which is awesome. If you add a review, I'd love to mention your name in a future episode. Your ratings and reviews are the ultimate assist, and they do help me to reach a wider audience. Please subscribe to my show on iTunes, or you can simply add my RSS feed. Check out the right-hand sidebar of my website. You can hear the show on Stitcher, Player FM, and other podcatchers. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show and share my web address with your friends and colleagues, inallairness.com. Check out the podcast archive for plenty more episodes with high-profile guests. Follow me on Twitter @inallairness. Please add your like to the show's social hub, facebook.com/inallairness. Join me next time for another edition of the show.